On September 3rd, 2025, the world stands at a crossroads, and this moment can be embraced as a symbolic reminder that change is not only inevitable, but also a powerful force capable of shaping the destiny of individuals and entire societies. Climate vulnerability continues to grow, disasters are intensifying, and the challenges humanity faces cannot be ignored. Yet within these challenges lies the seed of transformation. Too often, change is approached with hesitation, with fear of the unknown, with anxiety about what may be lost. But if there is one lesson that this date can teach us, it is that change is not the enemy. It is the catalyst for growth, innovation, resilience, and progress. It is the means by which we adapt to an uncertain world and turn vulnerability into strength. Climate change exposes the fragility of systems we once believed unshakable. Floods sweep through communities that never thought themselves at risk. Fires consume forests that stood for centuries. Heat waves scorch cities, leaving behind silent reminders of unpreparedness. Each event is a warning, yet also a teacher. It shows us that our old ways of thinking, of building, of consuming are no longer sufficient. In the face of such vulnerability, the only path forward is preparedness, and preparedness is born from change. We cannot cling to outdated habits or deny the urgency of our moment. We must reimagine how we live, work, and cooperate, not simply to survive, but to flourish. On this day, September 3rd, 2025, we have the opportunity to frame change not as a disruption, but as a call to action. Every community, every government, every individual has the capacity to embrace transformation. Preparedness does not mean only stockpiling resources or building walls against rising seas. It means cultivating a mindset that welcomes adaptation, innovation, and resilience. When societies invest in sustainable infrastructure, renewable energy, and equitable disaster response systems, they are not just preparing for storms, they are reshaping their future. When individuals choose to reduce waste, conserve energy, and advocate for responsible policies, they are not just protecting themselves, they are becoming active participants in global transformation. The reality is that climate vulnerability strikes hardest at those least equipped to endure it. The poorest communities often face the greatest losses, with limited resources to rebuild or relocate. Preparedness, therefore, is not only a matter of science and technology, it is a matter of justice and compassion. Change must extend beyond systems of protection and reach into systems of equity. When we ensure that resilience is shared by all, not just by the privileged few, we create a society that is stronger, fairer, and more united. Change in this way is not only about adapting to the environment, but about transforming our values to meet the moral demands of our time. It is easy to look at vulnerability and feel paralyzed by its scale. It is easy to hear about melting glaciers, rising oceans, and extreme storms, and believe the problem is too vast for any single action to matter. But history shows us that belief in change is what turns the impossible into the inevitable. Every great leap forward, whether in science, in civil rights, or in global cooperation, began with a belief that transformation was both necessary and achievable. On this day, as we reflect on the power of change, we must remember that preparedness is not only about external systems, it begins within us. Belief in our ability to adapt and in our collective strength to act is the foundation upon which true preparedness is built. The symbolic power of September 3rd, 2025 lies in reminding us that this is not just another date on the calendar. It is a call to see change as opportunity, to confront climate vulnerability with courage, and to embrace preparedness as a shared duty. The floods, fires, and storms we witness are not isolated tragedies, but interconnected signals that humanity must shift its course. The very air we breathe and the waters we depend upon are urging us to rethink our relationship with the earth. Change is no longer optional, it is the path forward. And if embraced with determination and vision, it will become the force that fuels resilience and progress for generations to come. Consider the young people across the globe who are already driving this change. They are raising their voices for climate action, innovating new technologies, and demanding accountability from leaders. They see vulnerability not as a reason for despair, but as a challenge to rise above. Their energy and conviction embody the idea that belief fuels change. Their work reminds us that preparedness is not merely about responding to disasters, but about preventing them. Not simply about building back what was lost, but building forward to something better. Preparedness requires courage to admit that the systems we rely upon may not be sufficient, and humility to learn from nature and from each other. It requires cooperation across borders, for climate vulnerability knows no boundaries. When one region suffers, the ripple effects reach far beyond. Food security, migration, economic stability, all are tied to the climate crisis. To prepare is to recognize this interconnectedness and to act not in isolation but in solidarity. Change on this scale demands belief in our common humanity, belief that what we share is greater than what divides us. There is also a deeply personal dimension to this message. Each of us faces moments when change enters our lives uninvited, through loss, challenge, or uncertainty. Just as communities must prepare for storms, individuals must learn to meet change with resilience. Preparedness in life means cultivating the inner strength to adapt, the openness to learn, and the courage to step into the unknown. The power of September 3rd, 2025 is to remind us that what is true for the planet is also true for the human spirit. Growth comes through change, and resilience is forged in the fires of challenge. As we look ahead, we must understand that the choices we make today will shape the legacy of tomorrow. Preparedness is not an act for the distant future. It is a commitment to the present. Every policy passed, every innovation pursued, every individual choice made contributes to the trajectory of our collective story. By embracing change now, by refusing to let fear hold us back, we ensure that vulnerability does not define us but transforms us. September 3rd, 2025 can be a marker in time, not of despair, but of awakening. It can remind us that we have the power to turn challenges into opportunities, to see climate vulnerability not as the end, but as the beginning of a new chapter of human resilience. Change is not to be resisted, but to be harnessed. Preparedness is not a burden, but a gift we give to ourselves and to future generations. And belief in the power of change, in the strength of humanity, and in the possibility of progress will be the force that carries us forward. In this spirit, let this day be remembered as the moment we chose to reframe our perspective, to welcome change as a catalyst for growth, and to commit ourselves to preparedness in the face of vulnerability. Let it be the day we recognize that the storms of our time are not signals of defeat but of transformation. And let it be the day we remembered that within every challenge lies the chance to create a brighter, stronger, and more resilient future. On September 3rd, 2025, we are reminded of a truth that is as ancient as humanity itself, yet more urgent now than ever before. Belief is the foundation of action. The challenges of our age, from climate vulnerability to social inequality, from economic instability to political division, cannot be met by systems and strategies alone. They require something deeper, something that no law, no machine, no calculation can fully replace. They require belief, the inner power that transforms ideas into reality, the force that gives direction to action, and the energy that turns hesitation into courage. Without belief, change remains incomplete. Without belief, preparedness becomes a hollow exercise. And without belief, even the most brilliant ideas lie dormant, waiting for conviction to bring them to life. Climate vulnerability has become one of the defining crises of our time. Communities around the world are being tested in ways that past generations could scarcely imagine. Floods, fires, droughts, and storms grow more severe each year, leaving behind not only broken infrastructure, but also broken spirits. Yet within this vulnerability, we are invited to discover the strength that lies within us, and that strength begins with belief. Preparedness requires plans, policies, and resources, but it also requires the conviction that human beings are capable of rising to the occasion, of shaping the future rather than merely enduring it. Belief is the seed from which resilience grows, the spark that ignites collective action. It is tempting in the face of such overwhelming challenges to surrender to despair. The statistics about rising temperatures, displaced populations, and threatened ecosystems can feel insurmountable. And yet history shows us again and again that when humanity believes in the possibility of change, transformation follows. The abolition of slavery, the fight for civil rights, the exploration of space, the eradication of deadly diseases, none of these achievements would have been possible without belief. It is belief that allows us to see beyond present pain and imagine future possibility. It is belief that pushes us to act when the odds seem impossible. And it is belief that prepares us not only to endure change, but to lead it. Preparedness is not only about building higher levees or installing stronger power grids, it is also about cultivating the mindset and spirit to face the storms of life with courage. A society can invest billions in infrastructure, but if its people do not believe in the necessity of resilience, if they do not see themselves as participants in the effort, then those investments will never reach their full potential. Belief unites communities around a common purpose, reminding them that every action, no matter how small, contributes to the larger picture. The farmer who chooses sustainable practices, the student who advocates for climate justice, the family that conserves energy, all of these actions are expressions of belief. Together, they weave a fabric of preparedness strong enough to withstand the pressures of vulnerability. The power of belief is not limited to collective action. It also has a deeply personal dimension. Each individual faces storms of their own, moments of uncertainty when the path ahead is clouded. In such moments, it is belief that becomes the compass. Belief in one's own ability to adapt, in one's capacity to learn, in one's resilience to rise again after failure. This is the foundation upon which personal preparedness is built. Without belief, fear dictates the choices we make. With belief, even the most daunting challenge becomes an invitation to grow. September 3rd, 2025 can serve as a symbolic reminder that belief is the force that bridges vulnerability and preparedness. When we believe in ourselves, we prepare not only for survival, but for progress. When we believe in others, we build bonds of trust that make communities stronger. And when we believe in a greater purpose, whether that purpose is justice, sustainability, or the well-being of future generations, we find the strength to act with consistency, even when results are not immediate. Belief anchors us in times of uncertainty and fuels us in times of fatigue. Consider the countless young voices rising across the world, demanding climate action, justice, and accountability. Their belief is unshaken by the enormity of the task before them. They march, they speak, they create, not because they have all the answers, but because they believe their voices matter, and that belief propels them into action. Their courage is contagious. Their conviction becomes a spark that awakens others. They remind us that belief is not about waiting for certainty, it is about acting even in the presence of doubt. And it is precisely this kind of belief that transforms vulnerability into strength. Preparedness without belief risks becoming mechanical, reduced to checklists and protocols. But preparedness infused with belief becomes living, dynamic, and creative. It becomes a movement rather than a manual. When belief drives preparedness, people go beyond what is required. They innovate, they collaborate, they imagine new solutions. They do not simply react to disasters, they anticipate and prevent them. They do not only rebuild what was lost, they reimagine what could be better. Belief also shapes the moral dimension of preparedness. It insists that no one be left behind, that the most vulnerable among us are not forgotten. It calls us to prepare not just for ourselves, but for those who cannot prepare for themselves, the poor, the displaced, the marginalized. To believe in a greater purpose is to recognize that preparedness must be inclusive, that resilience must be shared, and that the true measure of progress is not how well the strong endure, but how fully the vulnerable are protected. On this day, we are invited to reflect on the relationship between vulnerability and belief. Vulnerability exposes what is fragile, what is uncertain, what is at risk. Belief responds with courage, with vision, with resolve. Vulnerability tests us, but belief strengthens us. Vulnerability warns us of the dangers ahead, but belief equips us to meet them with determination. The two are inseparable. Vulnerability without belief leads to despair, but vulnerability with belief leads to transformation. Every person has a role to play in this transformation. Belief does not belong only to leaders, scientists, or activists. It belongs to every individual who chooses to face uncertainty with courage. It belongs to every family that teaches its children the value of hope. It belongs to every community that chooses cooperation over division. In the end, preparedness is not an abstract concept, but a lived reality shaped by the daily choices of millions of people. And those choices are guided by belief. As we stand at this moment in time, September 3rd, 2025, let us commit to belief as the foundation of our action. Let us believe that change is possible even when it seems slow. Let us believe that resilience is within our grasp, even when vulnerability surrounds us. Let us believe that our individual actions joined together can create waves of transformation that reach far beyond what we can see. Let us believe not because the path is easy, but because the future is worth the effort. In this spirit, may this day be remembered not simply as another date, but as a turning point, a reminder that belief is not a passive state, but an active force. Belief is what makes preparedness real, what transforms vulnerability into strength, and what ensures that our challenges become opportunities for growth. With belief as our foundation, we are not only prepared for the storms ahead, we are ready to build a brighter, more resilient, and more hopeful future for all.